Welcome to Bridging Borders, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between cultures through insightful conversations.
Together, we explore diverse topics from productivity to language learning, all the while helping you improve your English skills. Hey, Sam, how's it going?
Hi, Veronica. I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great today. I am actually so happy to be filming this podcast with you. It's the first episode of Bridging Borders, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. And today we're going to be using an article that I use for all my new students when I want to get to know them a bit better. I use this article to find great questions to ask them to find out some more information. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using these questions to find out some more information about each other and for the audience to find out a little bit more about us as well.
Yeah. And I feel like it's also going to be super interesting because maybe all of you guys who are listening to us right now, you could also think about your answers to these questions because I'm pretty sure maybe some of the questions are going to be like intriguing and surprising. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So what's the first question?
Yeah. So the first question is, what's your favorite way to spend a day off? Before we actually jump into this question, I wanted to let you guys know that this expression, a day off, is usually used to refer to a day when you don't have a lot of responsibilities. Like you don't have to go to work, right? And you don't have all of those work responsibilities. So, for example, you can say, I'm going to take a day off next Friday to relax. Or you can say, I really need a day off. This week has been so busy. So, Sam, what's your favorite way to spend a day off?
Well, usually a day off for me is the weekend, and it really depends on what time of year it is and what the weather is like. So if it's a spring day or an autumn day, or even maybe winter if it's not raining, I'd like to spend most of the day outside and in the countryside on a walk, maybe a dog walk. And I'd like to spend that time with my friends, my family, or my girlfriend. As long as we can go to a pub on the way home and have some food from there and also a pint. And if we get back in time for 4:30, I'd ideally like to watch Manchester United, my favorite football team, play and
Mhm.
obviously win, and then maybe watch a film. So if it's not summer, it's a very relaxed day. It's not too much fun or excitement, but I think it's a nice, cozy way to spend the day. And if it's the summer, I'd like to exercise in the morning because I exercise most days and I like to get out of the way in the morning and then just meet up with my friends or, my girlfriend and just enjoy the weather and see where the day takes us.
Yes.
So, how
Go
would you
ahead.
like to spend your day off?
Yeah, there are actually so many different things that I like thought about when I was thinking about like how I would answer this question. I feel like for me, it's my answer is similar to your answer in a way that I would definitely love to spend this day with my family or like people who are very important to me, like my boyfriend, my family, or his family, or my friends, for example. But I would also add that when I have a day off, usually it's like Saturday or Sunday, I sometimes like to go to a coffee shop. And I don't like calling it work because it's not really work. I just like to watch like a few videos on YouTube about how to do YouTube, about how I can improve my filming skills or how I can come up with better video ideas. So learning new things about YouTube, I would say. I really, really like doing that on my day off.
That sounds like work to me.
Yeah, it's funny because every time I share this with like my friends or my family, for example, they all tell me like, okay, Veronica, but like when you're filming and editing, like, aren't you improving your skills? Aren't you kind of working towards improving your skills? And yes, but at the same time, like YouTube is this job when you really have to work on your skills constantly and like you don't go to college to become a YouTuber, right? So like there's no, one like specific course or like a program that you're gonna take and they're gonna like teach you everything. It doesn't work this way. There are obviously like a lot of online courses, and I've taken multiple, but it's still a little different. Like you're always learning something new, and YouTube is always introducing new features too. So you have to keep up to date.
Sure. I'm sure there would be a course somewhere at a university to study YouTube because I think you can study ridiculous things at university now, including the Kardashians. So I'm sure there's a YouTube course out there somewhere.
No, I
But
think actually, yeah, right now certain universities are doing like social media marketing right now.
okay.
I've heard that it's like a course in some universities already, but they mostly talk about like Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's move on to the next question, which is where's the next place you'd like to go to on your travel bucket list? And a bucket list is often used for things that you would like to do before you die. There's quite a vulgar expression actually in English, which is to kick the bucket, and this means when you die. And a bucket list is all the things you would like to do before you kick the bucket. So, where would you like to travel to next?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's definitely Patagonia
Mm,
because yeah, I live in Mexico right now, and it's not that difficult to go to like Argentina or Chile right now. So I think for me, it's Patagonia because of its nature. There are just like a lot of dramatic landscapes there, like glaciers, for example, lakes and grasslands as well. So every time I think of Patagonia, I just think of like hiking and being surrounded by nature. And yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And also, I've heard that, well, I don't know if you can, like, as a tourist, you can actually see its wildlife, but I've heard that, there are a lot of different animals there. You can see like a lot of birds, and like, I think also Patagonia is like a home of where you can meet like a puma or a llama. But I'm not sure that you can actually, do like in real life because it's a little dangerous, especially when it comes to seeing a puma in real life. But still, definitely like birds and going hiking.
sure, that sounds really exciting. I'm trying to think of a place that I've been to which has good wildlife in terms of seeing animals, and I haven't really been to many places. So maybe that should be one of my one of that should be my choice as well. Not Patagonia, but somewhere where they have cool wildlife and animals. But I haven't really traveled too much outside of Europe. I've been to the United States and New Zealand, but mostly I've traveled inside of Europe. So I'd like to see a bit more of the world, especially Asia and South America. I don't have a particular country in mind, but yeah, I don't mind. Just drop me anywhere in Asia or anywhere in South America, and I'm sure it would be an interesting experience.
Yeah. How was New Zealand? I really want to go to New Zealand too one day.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I went with my family and we rented like a caravan, like a drivable caravan, and
Okay.
we all stayed in that and we drove around the different towns and cities in the south of New Zealand. So my dad didn't like driving it, especially on those narrow roads, but it was so good. And Queenstown is like a place that I've never been to before. It's this like urban hub surrounded by this massive lake and these huge mountains. And it's so weird being in the center of like this, busy urban environment, but also surrounded by phenomenal nature at the same time.
Yeah, wow, that sounds just amazing. Yeah. And the last time I was in Europe, I was like 12 years old. It was the last and only time.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was like a long time ago. I would really want to go there again. And so, which country would you recommend?
It reminds me of when American people say, I'm going to Europe for summer. And for me, that sounds quite funny because I'm from the UK and Europe could mean like Copenhagen, it could mean
Exactly.
Madrid, it could mean Amsterdam, it could be somewhere in Poland, it could be a northern city in the United Kingdom. So in Europe, Where would I recommend? Recently, I've been going to Stockholm. I've been there twice, and my sister lives there right now. So I went to visit her in December last year. And if you're going to go, I wouldn't go in December because it gets light at about nine o'clock in the morning, or maybe a bit later
Okay.
than that, and it gets dark around 2 p.m. So it's a bit bleak in the winter, but the summer was outstanding. The everyone is outside because they don't get much sunlight or nice weather in Sweden or in Stockholm. So they really use that time wisely and they spend a lot of time outside. And it's a really cool Stockholm, particularly, is a really cool city because it's made up of, I think, 14 islands. So there's water everywhere and you can explore all these different islands. And it's just a great city. So I'd recommend
Wow.
Stockholm.
Okay. Yeah, it really reminds me of when I was a little kid. My family and I lived in the north of Russia. The city is called Monchegorsk. It's like a very small city in the north. And yeah, like in winter, we would have exactly the same situation. It would get light at like 9 or 10, and then it would get dark at 2 or 3. And so that's it. That's like all you get. But at the same time, I think it was in the summer we would get basically maybe I would say 18 hours of daylight, which was kind of crazy. But yeah, it was definitely like the nature there is extremely beautiful. And if you like winter activities, that's the perfect place to be.
Yeah, funnily enough, when we visited, we went for the shortest day of the year in December, and we went
Mhm.
also for the longest day of the year as well. So that was quite weird. But we were in this bar and we heard these two people like celebrating behind us, and we are like, what are they celebrating? And it was because it had been the shortest day of the year. So gradually it was going to start getting lighter. So yeah, I don't think it's not too different in the UK because it gets light around 8ish, I think, and then gets dark the earliest maybe four to five. But I think it's character building.
Well, I remember, yeah, when I lived in Russia, it was the same thing. But no, like when I moved to Mexico, I think sometimes here it gets like dark at 6, but sometimes it gets dark at 8, depending on the month. And honestly, I don't miss those days of when it was getting dark at 4 p.m. Yeah.
Sure. And what about in Mexico City?
Yeah, it's a lot better because it's basically we have a lot of daylight here, and I think in the summer especially, it gets light at like 6 a.m. and dark probably at 8, around 8 or even 9. So it's pretty crazy.
Sure. And talking of Mexico, I think it's related to the next answer, question, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So our next question is, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I have quite a boring and British answer, but I've thought hard about this, and you need to take into consideration a few things. It needs to be something that you'd be quite happy eating all times of the day. So for your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner. In the UK, some people call dinner tea. It's actually quite confusing, but your last and final meal of the day. The next thing is got to be nutritious. So if you choose pizza, I don't think you're going to be too healthy in a few years, are you? If you're just eating pizza, um, if that's the only thing you're eating, then also it's got to be versatile. So you've got to be able to mix it up a little bit so it doesn't become too repetitive and boring. So saying that my answer is quite boring, I'd actually choose sandwiches because of the three things I just mentioned. I could eat a
Smart.
sandwich at any time of the day, like a breakfast sandwich of like sausages or bacon or egg. That's not too healthy, but yeah, maybe other weekends. And then you could obviously eat sandwiches for lunch, and I wouldn't mind eating sandwiches for dinner. And it's not the healthiest, maybe, but I don't react badly to bread like and gluten like some people do. So I'm okay with that. It's a good source of carbohydrates. I could hit my proteins by putting meat in there, and I can eat vegetables in there as well. So I can put vegetables in there as well. So I think that's a good answer in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I think you can make sandwiches really healthy actually. Like you
Mm,
mentioned bread, but at the same time you can use sourdough bread, for example.
sure.
And that's something that I use, for example, because I feel like I'm okay with gluten, but like sometimes my stomach gets a little like probably, I should stop eating bread. Yeah,
Sure.
no, I like your
And what
answer.
would what would yours be?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this answer too, but I would say vegan tacos. Well, I'm vegan, so that's why I can just say tacos. But at the same time, I also know that like if I choose tacos, there is so many different ways I can make them. Like I can
Mm.
make them with corn and they can be great for breakfast, for example. Or I can use like vegan meat, soy, or something else to like make a vegan taco for lunch and dinner. And I really like tacos because they are very customizable. And I think that's why people in Mexico and in a lot of different countries really like tacos because you can practically, like inside a tortilla, you can put whatever you want to. And obviously, like it allows people to build their own tacos according to their preferences. You can, choose the type of meat, or if you're vegan, you can use beans or corn or vegan meat. You can also like change the toppings, for example. And so I think right now that's definitely like my favorite meal. And I also like tacos because of their texture. Because when you eat tacos, it's like this warm corn tortilla, like you have spicy, like, salsa. And sometimes you can make tortillas crispy, so they're less like tacos. And yeah, it's just like you can change the toppings, you can make them crunchy, you can make them soft. So it's like you can play with different textures.
And I've never made tacos before, so are they easy to make? Because sandwiches, you can do that in 5 minutes.
Oh, they're very easy to make.
Okay.
Yeah, extremely easy to make. Um, and especially if you live in Mexico City, for example, or in Mexico, somewhere in Mexico, you can like go outside and buy fresh tortillas. And they smell amazing and they taste amazing. So, no, it's very easy to do. Absolutely. The only thing that I would say though is that they can be quite messy. I know there are people who don't like eating with their hands, for example. And
Mm.
plus, you have to account for the fact that they are messy, like especially with the salsa and everything. Your your hands are gonna be like covered in salsa and like maybe like all those juices, meat juices and everything. But I feel like sandwiches is the same thing, right?
I guess it depends on the fillings you use. If you use something dry and not too much liquid, then yeah, it's gonna be okay. But I mean, there are messy sandwiches definitely. But I
Yeah.
do have a flaw in your answer, and that is what happens if you leave Mexico and you live in a different country where tacos aren't readily available.
Yeah. You get very sad.
You'll have to take packed lunches everywhere.
No, I mean, I always liked tacos, but like I remember when I lived in Russia, I would like buy tortillas like at a store, but they were nothing like real tortillas, like freshly cooked tortillas. So yeah, and like once I moved here, I was like, oh, I'm like finally here, like where I can eat my tacos and eat my tortillas and feel great. But I guess you can try to make your own. It's not that difficult. Like if you have time, you can try to make your own tortillas. So,
This might be a stupid question, but are the tacos a lot better in Mexico than when compared to eating them from different countries?
I wouldn't say it's like tacos are the best in Mexico because I mean tacos and like everything that people eat with corn is popular in a lot of other Latin American countries too.
Hmm.
Of course, tacos in Mexico are amazing, right? Compared to, for example, tacos in Russia, let's
Yeah,
say.
sure.
Yeah, it's like, you can't really compare those things. But at the same time, if you go to like a different Latin American country and maybe they make stuff out of corn too, it's going to be delicious too. Maybe it's not a taco, maybe it's something else, but it's like, the base is still corn. Yeah.
Sure. I'll have to go to Mexico one day or South America. Maybe when I go to South America on my bucket list trip, I'll try some tacos there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the next question is, what is the phone app or application that you use the most?
So for me, the app that I use the most is Telegram. I actually checked the screen time on my phone, and that was definitely the app that I use the most. But on average, I spend around like 40 minutes to an hour every day on Telegram just chatting with people. Because I use Telegram to talk to my parents, to talk to my friends, to do some work stuff there too. So I think that's definitely the app that I use the most. And I actually Googled the statistics because I was very curious, like where Telegram is popular as well. So I found that actually it's extremely popular in India too. Well, we all know that it's like Telegram is popular in Russia, for example, but also India and Indonesia and Brazil. So I was pretty surprised. So if someone from those countries, if you guys are listening to us and you agree with me, or you're from India, let's say, let us know in the comments, for example, because that was, pretty interesting for me. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't use Telegram in the UK. Most people use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, but mostly WhatsApp, I think. The only
Okay.
time I did download Telegram, but that was because I joined some climate change protest group and they were having all their communications on Telegram. So I don't have it anymore. But the app that I use the most is probably Safari because when I had social media, and I still use YouTube and read the news, but I don't like downloading the specific app on the App Store because I think they're really well designed and they're like smoother and they have a better user experience than using kind of the website on Safari. So in order to
Absolutely.
in order to try and reduce my time mostly on social media when I had Instagram and Twitter, I used Safari to do it, and it was horrible. And it definitely did like reduce the amount of time that I was spending on Instagram because when you click on like a story, instead of like going to the next one automatically, like it would come off onto the homepage, and then you'd have to like go back. Oh, it was an awful experience. So I just didn't end up watching anyone's stories, which was pretty good actually because you don't get to see people, uh, you know, put a fork or a knife into someone into poached eggs or some view that doesn't really mean anything to you. But yeah, it's definitely Safari because I watch and mostly listen to a lot of YouTube. So when I'm doing stuff around the house, I just have kind of YouTube playing. Maybe I should limit that a little bit and try and be present in the moment and try and enjoy washing up without having to listen to something stimulating. But I still read the news and also use YouTube on Safari. So it would be
Hmm.
Safari for me.
Okay, that's very interesting because I actually also don't use social media because I only use it for work. Like, obviously, I have like my work Instagram account, and that's it. Like, I don't follow people there because I also find that I can really waste a lot of my time on social media. And I've also recently heard this expression, if you want to be a good creator, you have to be a good consumer. So I
Mm,
think that's also why I am better when it comes to YouTube content than like TikTok or Instagram because I like almost never use TikTok. I only use it to post my videos, but they're for work. And yeah, that's it. And obviously, I use YouTube a lot. Definitely. I consume a lot of YouTube every day, but for work too.
yeah, work.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm too old for TikTok. I'm 27, so I feel like, I'm a generation above. And when I've occasionally reactivated my Instagram and got the app, I stumble upon a few reels, and then next thing I know, it's 30 minutes later, and I'm like, oh, what have I just done? I needed to do something else. I've just lay on my bed watching reels. So I
Yep.
think it's probably better for me that I don't have Instagram.
It happens to me too. Exactly the same thing. Yep. I just find myself scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. And like 1 hour later, I'm like, oh my God, I could have like spent this hour reading, for example. Like, what am I doing here? Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to our next question. What's your go-to guilty pleasure? And guys, native speakers use this expression go to when they refer to something that they regularly rely on or their like preferred choice. For example, you can say, my go to restaurant for Italian food is always the one downtown. Their pasta dishes are amazing. And we use this expression guilty pleasure to describe something that you like doing, but maybe you feel a little embarrassed or like self-conscious about enjoying it because maybe other people find it a little strange, a little frivolous. It's not something that a lot of people like. So, Sam, what's your go-to guilty pleasure?
Well, if you would have asked me a few months ago, it would have been the fact that I was watching the reality television show Love Island, which I'm very embarrassed about the fact that I watched that over the summer. I really tried not to. And when the first episodes came on, I was like, okay, I'm going to go read my book upstairs because I'm better than this. And then my girlfriend was watching it. And then when we went to um, Stockholm on holiday, my parents were watching it as well, and my sister. So when we were staying in the house and we were just chilling in the evening, my family and my girlfriend were like, oh, let's watch Love Island. I was like, oh, okay. And then I got drawn into it, and I actually started watching it every night, and I will admit I did enjoy it. So that was my guilty pleasure in summer, but now it's not my go-to because I don't think I'd watch it again. Because even though I enjoyed it in the summer, I don't think I would watch it again because I think like it's just a waste of time, and it's just a bit silly because I haven't thought about the show once or any of the people in it once after it finished. It's just like this kind of thing that entertained me for an hour a day and have conversations with people about it with people. But now that it's gone, it's just nothing in my life. So I don't think I'd watch it again. And it's just such a stupid show. But I did enjoy it. If I had to answer that question now, what's my go-to guilty pleasure? It'd probably be the kids show Avatar: The Legend of Aang, which
Oh,
is
I love this one.
okay, yeah, is a kids show. Is made by Nickelodeon, which is like a kids TV studio. So it is for children, but I think a lot of adults enjoy the show as well. So I'm let off the hook a little bit, and I don't think it's too embarrassing. But yeah, maybe some people would think it's a bit weird the fact that I regularly consume and would put that show in my top three TV shows of all time. And when I'm maybe a little bit sad or hungover, for example, it's definitely my go-to watch.
Oh my God, it's so funny because I remember when I was a kid, it was definitely my favorite show. I still like it, but like I don't watch it anymore, but I enjoyed it so much. But you said I do think a lot of adults like really like the show too, because it's very interesting and extremely entertaining. So no, it's great. Yeah, for me, yeah, I was thinking a lot about this question, and I also like reality TV, but like really specific kind of reality TV. There was this show on Netflix. It's called Indian Matchmaking. It's basically a series that follows a matchmaker. Her name is Seema, and she helps her clients. She helps them find like suitable life partners through arranged marriages. And it's very interesting because it's extremely entertaining and there's a lot of drama involved. And my favorite part about the show is when people list their preferences, like, what is your ideal partner? And some people have like normal lists, like nothing too weird about them. But some people really go into detail. They say that, I only want a person who has blue eyes and who can speak this language fluently and who can dance like this kind of dance really well. And it's like a whole list. And Seema, the matchmaker, she's always like, what is going on? Like, why are you so picky and so specific? Yeah, so it's definitely, I think right now it's not my go-to guilty pleasure because I've watched all the episodes and all the seasons. But now I started watching Jewish matchmaking. So it's very similar, and it's definitely my go-to guilty pleasure now because it's basically the same thing, but just different people. Yeah, it's all about Jewish matchmaking, their arranged marriages. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really like it.
Do they actually get married in the show?
Well, they do. Some people do, but not a lot. Actually, it's very interesting. Like most people don't. There are a lot of people who start dating and they show us how they're dating, how like they meet each other's parents. Probably, I would say maybe like only 5% of people actually get married and like they show us their marriages and everything, their weddings, I mean. Um, but I'm not sure, like, when I really think about it, maybe some of those things are not even real. But I like to think they are because it makes it all, much more interesting. But at the same time, I remember when I was watching Indian matchmaking, there were some situations where people found like partners outside of the show and they would come back to the show and be like, oh, you know what? Like, I don't need these matchmaking services anymore. Like, I have found my life partner. I'm in love. Like, I want to get married. And yeah.
There's a TV show in the UK called Married at First Sight. And I don't know if you know about this, but it's similar to that, where it's like matchmaking, but the first time they meet each other, they are getting married, and it's the wedding ceremony. So they are literally, the bride is walking down to the groom, and it's the first time they ever met each other, and they're getting married, and that's a dating show.
Wow. Well, but
I
at the
know.
same time, like, do you think it's real? Like they actually get married or maybe it's just like random people who are like, okay, let's pretend we're getting married.
No, I legitimately think they are getting
Okay.
married, but I don't know how bad their love lives must have been before that to think, oh, do you know what I'll do? I'll get married on TV to a random person. I think afterwards they turn it into a bit of a reality TV show and they send all the couples to like some hotel somewhere and they film them and see how they're getting along. But I haven't really watched it. I maybe watched a few episodes, but I think that's how it goes. But yeah,
Okay.
definitely, I definitely wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, we have a very, I mean, it's not like a very similar show in Russia, but it's basically the idea of the show is you're already married and maybe like you're experiencing some like problems in your marriage. So what they decide to do is they decide to spend a week with other people. So like each partner is like, oh, I'm gonna like go on a date with this other person, and the other person is like, okay, I'm gonna go on a date with this other person. And it's like weird because some people are like, yes, it's gonna like make our marriage stronger, but other people are like, I can't believe he's going on a date with this person or she's going on a date with that person. And it's a lot of drama, and obviously that's why people like the show. So
Yeah, that seems quite dangerous to marriage stability, but it does definitely sounds entertaining to the viewers.
yeah, it's very entertaining. Yeah. And usually, actually, that's interesting because usually what people like the viewers want to see is when at the end of the show, they realize that it was like they love each other. Like they don't have to be with
Mm,
other people. They come back and they're like, no, I love you. I want to be with you. Let's
yeah.
continue. We're gonna save our marriage. We'll do it. And everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a bit of drama and then the happy ending.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people want, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people would choose reality television for that answer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why people love reality TV. They want a little bit of drama, but at the end of the day, you have your own, like, the people that you love and cheer for in the show. You're like, "Oh
Mm.
no, I want this guy to succeed," or "I want this girl to be happy." And when that happens, you're happy.
Yeah, when I was watching Love Island in the summer, I like secretly downloaded the app, the ITV app, so I could vote. But I was so ashamed that I kind of deleted it afterwards, so my girlfriend wouldn't see.
Oh my God, so funny. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's the end of the questions, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I think it was a lot of fun answering all of these questions and discussing the answers with you, Sam. So I really hope you guys enjoyed listening to us, to our answers. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you, Veronica. And like Veronica said at the start, if you do want to think about your answers to those questions, definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe like if you could ask your loved ones, your family members, your friends those questions, I think that's also going to be pretty interesting because maybe you don't even know what your friends go to guilty pleasure, for example. So that
Hmm.
would be a lot of fun to find out.
Exactly. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Bridging Borders. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more useful insights.
Stay connected by following us on social media. You can find us at bridging_borders_podcast. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep connecting.